So why would you not be in vibrational alignment with what you want? Why would you not give your undivided attention to what you want? Because you've been trained to ferret out the problem, wrestle it to the ground, and kill it. But what you're coming to understand is, in the whole process of ferreting it out, identifying it, cataloging it, pigeonholing it, making monuments about it, talking about it, passing it on from generation to generation, you've activated in your vibration, so it must continue to be your experience. You cannot wrestle it to the ground and kill it, because there's another and another and another and another and another, because the universe will constantly give you whatever is in your vibration. No exceptions, you see. You've got to change your vibration. There is not a medical cure that can cure something that's off in your vibration. There's not a pill or a surgery that can keep you whole if you've got a vibration going on that's not allowing well-being. And so when you realize that everything that's happening globally is symptomatic of what's happening individually, but you do not worry yourself about what's happening globally. You tend to the only thing that you can tend to, and that's what's happening individually. And you work to align yourself with what feels good. You begin to be an example of thriving. And it is our promise to you that when you thrive through the clarity of your example, you will be of value to others. And it is also our promise to you that you cannot get sick enough to help sick people get well. And you cannot get poor enough to help poor people become prosperous. And you cannot get agitated about the political process enough to improve it. In other words, until you align with what feels good, you will not be in vibrational alignment with what feels good. And until you align with what feels good, you will not be in vibrational alignment with what feels good. Now, this sounds like circular reasoning, but what we're saying to you is, you gotta line up. You gotta line up. You gotta line up. You gotta line up with what you want. You've got to line up with what you want. So why don't you? Well, it's because you were lining up with thoughts before you were paying attention to how the thoughts you were lining up with felt. And you developed a vibrational habit of lining up, and law of attraction then matches those thoughts. Someone said to us the other day, Abraham, it feels like my thoughts are thinking me. Doesn't feel like I have control of what I'm thinking. I wake up and there they are. I try to change the subject, but there they are. And we say, well, don't despair. You've just got some thoughts activated, and we know we want to give you the benefit of the doubt. We want you to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. We want you to help let yourself off the hook by saying, law of attraction is really bringing these thoughts in that I've been thinking. But now a wonderful thing has happened. Now I have visceral awareness, emotional awareness that this thought is not beneficial to my experience. I can tell by the way it feels. So when I criticize myself, that's not good for me. When I criticize you, that's not good for me. When I find fault with me, that's not good for me. When I find fault with you, that's not good for me. When I worry, that's not good for me. When I worry, I'm actually negatively creating. When I worry, that means what I'm worried about is in the process of becoming. Friends will say, but Abraham, how can I not worry about this fact? And how can I not give this fact, this truth, this evidence my attention? And we say, think about what you're saying. You're saying somebody else who didn't want that, gave it their attention, gave it a lot of their attention, achieved vibrational alignment with it, attracted it into their experience, and because they did that, then you should too? If we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd be very particular about what we give our attention to. But we wouldn't go about it by monitoring thoughts. We would go about it by deciding that nothing is more important than that we feel good. And then by little, thought by thought, day by day, subject by subject, reaching for the best feeling thought that we could find in the moment. Joseph Campbell, magnificent teacher, gave you the best words that have ever been spoken on this subject of lining up with source energy and creating your own reality in a way that would please you. He said, follow your bliss. And we say, perfect guidance. But knowing what we do about the emotional scale, if you are in fear or despair you can't get a whiff of bliss. An attempt to follow bliss from a place of despair leaves you feeling failure, because you can't set your radio tuner at 6:30 a.m. and hear what's being broadcast on 98.6 FM. The frequencies are too far apart. And you can't be in a place of despair because of something you've been observing or living or thinking about. And all of a sudden, quantum leap over into the vibration of bliss. It's not going to happen. But you could do the best that you could about feeling the best that you can from where you are, and you could shift despair to something that feels better to you, like revenge. Now, the world who is standing apart from you would find those worrisome words. Because when you're depressed, you sort of go away and leave everybody alone. In your feeling of powerlessness, you just slink off and die. But when you take some of your power back by focusing upon the best feeling thought you can find from where you are, and you do it on purpose, and you note that you feel better, now can you see what's happened? You have taken the only thing that was ever wrong to begin with, which was your perception of loss of power, and you've done something about it, and you've restored to yourself a sensation of power, and the gloom, the depression, is beginning to lift. Now, do not misunderstand. If you were overwhelmed and frustrated, or even really tiptoeing into thoughts of anger about something, we would not be coaching you into rage or revenge. It's going the wrong way on the emotional scale. In other words, can you feel that as long as you know which direction feels better, now you have a quantifiable journey within you. Now you have guidance that helps you to know which direction you're headed. If you're not listening to those emotions, then you may do what many people do. Find depression because your life is giving you reason to feel it. Get angry about it. Hear from everybody around you that your anger is misplaced, and go right back in depression. So you're depressed, angry, depressed, angry, depressed, angry, depressed, angry, depressed, angry, and then they give you a label and medication. But your feeling of perceived powerlessness does not change unless you empower yourself by beginning your own emotional trek up the emotional scale. The journey from not enough money to plenty of money. If you are taking an action course, as so many of our physical human friends have attempted, what that says is, I don't have enough money, I need to figure out how to get more money, which means I need to figure out what I can do to exchange myself for more money, which means I need to figure out who's willing to pay money for what, and I need to figure out what those markets are, and which markets have a glut of people in them, and which markets are starving. And then I need to train myself so that I fit into the right market, and then I need to find the money so that I can get the training, and I have to find some way of surviving while I get that training. And then I have to convince others that are competing for those jobs that I am the one that should have those jobs. And then, as I sit across the desk trying to convince someone that I am the one for the job, then as I receive the job, then I've got to do everything that I can to make sure that they understand that they made a good choice in me. And then I have to adjust to the money that they decide is appropriate for me to make under these conditions. And then I have to convince them that I'm really worth more money. And then I have to compete with all of the others that are trying to convince them that they are worth more money. And we say, oh, that is so hard. It's no wonder you're discouraged. We'd be depressed too under those conditions. In other words, there are so many circumstances and events that you have to try to change, which you have no power to change. But when you understand that instead of trying to take that long, slow, convoluted, very hard, very difficult, very tedious action journey, if you would decide to take an emotional journey, and let us tell you what the emotional journey involves. I've got to go from worry to hope. That's it. I just have to talk to myself right here, right now, so that I feel a little more hopeful and a little less worried. And do you know that you could do it in a minute? And then you could do it in another minute and another minute, and you could train yourself in less than a day, certainly in less than 30 days, to have hope instead of worry, and then the universe will give you the job or the money or the resources or the avenue or the avalanche or the endless circumstances and events that will flood dollars into your experience. Because you do not have to do those things that others have taught you that you need to do because they thought they needed you to do them so that they could feel good. So, you're on this journey from sickness to wellness, and you've got something in your body that you don't want, and it's really scaring you because they've told you that it's the end of you. And you don't want it to be the end of you, but you're worried that it is the end of you. At least it's the end of you as you've known you to be. It's a diminishment of your experience. And so, the action journey says, I've got to figure out what I've got, and I've got to figure out how I got it, and I've got to figure out who can help me cure it, and I've got to figure out if they really know what they're doing. And I've got to figure out if it's a trial thing that they're doing, and I've got to figure out how many people survived it, and I've got to figure out how to pay for it, and I've got to figure out how to get to it. And we say, oh, what a long, hard journey that is. The emotional journey says, I've got to go from worry to hope. I've got to go from despair maybe fear, maybe to anger, to frustration, to overwhelmment, to hope. We're not saying that you can even jump from fear to hope in one fell swoop, but we are saying to you, that's the journey. We are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. Nothing off limits. You'll notice a nice unfolding. This meeting gathered even before your physical bodies convened. And so we'll have a glorious time of co-creation. Worry not. Everything that you're wanting to know will be fully addressed. And the best people to help you to understand what you are wanting to understand will sit in the hot seat and help us all to do it. We have enjoyed this interaction more than words can convey. You are serious, deliberate creators. And we can feel you determined to discover this vibrational art of allowing. We have never experienced a stronger awareness of reception of energy transmission. And what we mean by that is, as we convey to you in response to your powerful questions, both those spoken verbally from the microphone and those conveyed vibrationally or with thought, as we responded to that which you are asking, we could feel your level of allowing in an extremely receptive place. You are powerful creators, but friends, we all make much too much of this. Be easy about this and find something to feel good about and feel good about it, and watch your life begin to transform. There is great love here for you. We are.